Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Mel.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing really well. However, I am starting to struggle a little bit with the heat, the intensity over here.
Yeah, you guys are having a really hot summer, right? It's like record-setting kind of summer for you.
Yeah, and for weeks on end. So when we're down the beach, which I'm not far from at the moment, it's beautiful. But at the house with no aircon, it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I am grateful to live in an area where air conditioning comes standard with houses because
Yes.
there's just no way I think I would melt. So guys, we are on our final card of the series, the world, the cycle ending card. This
Mm,
card is so profound. And if you've walked this journey with us, you'll know truly how profound it is, how much work we've had to do, how much facing fears, how many times walking through the fire, taking a step back, looking at the situation, coming at different angles, just so we could feel the completion of a job well done. And again, if you followed through this entire series with us, this 22nd card we're on, which is number 21 because it starts at 0, is, Mel and I have personally been working through our own cycle throughout this cycle. It's been very reflective in that way. We've had our personal journey cycles, but through the career aspect of it, through what we're doing here, our podcast, our little mom and pop shop here has really gone through this massive upheaval and change so that we could be at the end of this cycle. It's very exciting. Mel, you had mentioned, kind of not wanting to finish this series because that means the series is over. And I will have to agree, it's a little sad that we're finishing up with the Major Arcana.
yeah, I think that's the element, isn't it? Of when you go through a cycle, it's enjoyable to and important to review all of the different steps that you've taken because anyone that's been listening to our podcast in the past know that we've been saying of the different elements that we have to get our heads around, finding a platform to start doing the podcasts and recording it and editing, and then you were working on the thumbnails and putting them onto YouTube. So all of the skills that you learn when you start to try something new, that
Yeah.
both of us were stepping forward with, and a lot of it was unknown territory, as well as the different things that were going on in our lives at the same time, and the seasons, because we've gone through spring, summer, winter, autumn together and back to
Yeah.
spring and summer,
Yeah.
so it's a lot if you look over and review your year, and it's really, really important to do that, isn't it? To celebrate what's gone well, what steps you've taken forward, no matter how difficult, what the learning was from that, how those experiences felt. And that's a big aspect of the world card, isn't it?
Yeah, is not only are you finishing the cycle and getting to look ahead with all these new tools, but giving yourself that opportunity to take a look back and see all of the gains, all the momentum you've created, all of the resources you now have, and you can't help but feel really proud of yourself
Yeah.
and very ignited from within, that passion we talk about, very ignited in being able to pursue the next steps in this new clarity, if you will, of what seems so daunting at the beginning is now almost a second nature. And it's almost exciting to put in something new. The one thing that might have overwhelmed in the beginning is now a natural step that we're taking. And now we're saying, okay, now what are we going to add to it? What's the next step to this? It's very exciting, to come to the end of a cycle, of any cycle. I know some cycles are a little more traumatic than others, but when you hit the end of that cycle, you can really feel the depths of the work you've done and find, I always say, get me the gold star. I deserve the sticker. It's really that time to admire the work you've done, to be proud of yourself, to take the accolades deserving so that you can just see yourself for what you are, and that's just this magnificent being that is capable of not only tackling tough things, but then making those tough things easy because you're working towards them and you've put your focus on it. And such a big deal in today's society, where we really find these quick fixes, these easy ways out, the ways to get around having to take this entire journey to end the cycle. And when you take the time for yourself and you take this stuff seriously, how you can finally say, oh my gosh, this was worth every ounce of it, because now here I am, much better than I started.
Mm.
And I only have more to gain from this.
It's a bit like we were talking about in our live webinar, for anybody that hasn't listened to that yet, of the rituals and routines that you need to put in place to help you when you're at the beginning of any endeavor, whether that's starting a new job or you've just moved, locations, starting with a family. With a new cycle, it's new and the experiences can, like what you say, feel daunting. So what skills, strengths and abilities do you already have that can help you with that? What people do you have around you that can support you with elements of, like what we were both struggling with, aspects of technology? And then what other things are you learning that at that time can feel daunting? So understanding the learning cycle as well as the change cycle, as we talked about in our webinar, helps normalize some of those experiences. And now when you get towards the end, you can look back, and I've been doing this equally in a project that I set up with colleagues. We've all looked at that together, because early back in January, everyone was getting really stressed and overwhelmed because the project was going well, the more work was coming in, and they had the skills and abilities, but we were still finding their feet. I was finding my feet with the team. The team and us were getting interruptions sometimes, and occasionally I wanted to throw in the towel and, oh, this is just too difficult. And sometimes, like, what we might have had a difficult day or a challenging day before we've had the webinar, or we've got ideas and we don't know how it's going to work with each other. And it's all of these different things that you work through. And when you look back on that, you have to review that and write that down or journal that, because the next time you go into the next cycle, whatever it is, you do that with much more confidence, and you do that with much more self-awareness.
Yeah, it's beautiful, guys. Like, we're just really proud of ourselves right now. And we're proud of all of you who've really taken this journey seriously and have worked, just because we know the hard work involved. So when you dedicate yourself to the improvement of self, it's profound, and we deserve to celebrate this. So woo, hence the fireworks on my on the thumbnail. So all right, so the world, we'll go ahead and get into it, guys. You are on card number 21. This would be the 22nd card of the series, the final card. You are no longer in any of these lessons. You are now moving forward. Your fool's journey has come to a completion. This represents an ending to a cycle of life, a pause in life, and also a pause in life before the next big cycle. So this is kind of where you get that freedom of saying, I just completed something. I'm going to sit here and bask in the glory, the sunlight, the beauty that is this job I just did. And it doesn't matter if you weren't able to do it perfectly. That's the best part. The job's done, right? You can always represent a new cycle and go to a deeper level. The cycle's never ending. The more work we put in, the more it comes back to us and pay off. So this is really, especially if this is the first time you've been consciously aware of your cycle, this is how you learn. This is how we start to gain those tools. And like what Mel said, when you begin as this fool's journey and the next cycle again, and you've written down what's worked because you've looked at that timeline, you've done the work that was necessarily, you've done the journey or the journaling, you'll be able to say, okay, this is making sense to me when you're taking the next steps. This is an indicator of a major change and or shift in life. And by that, I mean, once your eyes are open, there's no going back. Once you know, you can't unknow. Once you heal that portion, it's going to require a lot of work for that place to hurt again. So this really is going to be life shifting for a lot of people. So the element is going to be Earth. So we are here, the world. So Mother Earth. The ruling planet is Saturn. So think the tough life lessons, I refer to Saturn as Sky Daddy, or not my real dad when he makes me mad. But Saturn's really good at providing these tough life lessons that make sure that you are connected to the reality that is Earth, hence the element of Earth. So it is not a masculine nor feminine. The world is both. This is a wholeness. This is a completeness. And the beauty of the zodiac is much like the wheel of fortune. These are going to be your 4 cardinal signs. So 4 fixed signs, your Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Okay. So when we're looking at keywords, when we've got the upright world, you are looking at achievement, fulfillment, and possibilities, because they are endless. I will say, as we've led up to this, this podcast for this world, I started getting that 7 of Cups, that mentality of 7 of Cups, which is where you have all these options and all these cups are full. And what option are you going to take next? You really start to get, again, that passion, that fire burning behind you that says, whoa, I'm capable of anything. And so what will my next project be? So it is okay if this is in reverse. Just last week, I was reversed rolled and did not feel ready to put out this title. I wasn't ready to put out this podcast because I was dealing with personal issues and I was foggy and I wasn't clarity driven, and I did not feel like the world was mine. So out of respect for what it is that I'm doing and what Mel is doing, I just said, I can't do it yet. And Mel, of course, being the amazing friend she is like, please take care of yourself. So when you're looking at this in reverse, you're looking at delayed success, failed plans, or stagnation. Guys, this is okay. Not everything in the cycle is going to end with the world being upright. Sometimes we're a little messy getting through our cycle. We forget some steps. We aren't doing the things we're supposed to do. We get a little casual with the work. It happens. I've done it myself. Again, I was having a personal problem, personal issue. I couldn't bring forward what my career needed. So I stayed in the reversed aspect of this. So some questions I do want us to ask ourselves is, when reflecting on this journey, i.e. this cycle, how do I feel? Am I still needing closure on a personal issue? I can't help but laugh because I wrote this, I wrote out my notes weeks ago, Mel, weeks ago. And I am now reading this and I'm like, oh yeah, I did. I did need closure on a personal issue to fill the world. And then the third and final question is, do I feel focused or foggy? Clarity at the end of a cycle is important to have. If we don't have the clarity, we need to come back and do a little, well, again, I'm going to plug the webinar. We gave a lot of good information. This would be a really good time to do some timeline work. Kind of take a look and see where it was, where you're finding your fogginess, why you're finding your fogginess, and if there's like a consistency, or if there is a portion of time every month that maybe the work gets foggy, the work gets a little muddy. Pay attention to where the moon cycle is. Where are we at in our external environment? What does the internal environment feel? All of these things are great ways for you to kind of get clarity on whatever the subject is that we're approaching. So to encounter the world card is to encounter a great unity and wholeness. I found that quote. I thought it was beautiful. Because when we complete a cycle, there is this sense of wholeness. What you think, wouldn't you say? Like you feel complete. You feel that there's not loose ends, that whatever it was that goal was, you've just completed it. Be it this series, be it a personal goal of maybe being more mindful, perhaps being more consciously aware of how you're eating, or the way you're speaking, the way you're journaling. There's all different types, the way you parent, the way you are with your friends, any cycle counts. So, but at the end of that cycle, you really should be feeling this sense of completion, this sense of fulfillment. And if you're not, I think it'd be a really good time to take that look back, kind of see where you could make adjustments for the next cycle, and then be proud of yourself anyway.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the reflections I had is the two projects that I set up last year, and one of them I'm still overseeing, is very similar to projects I've set up before, but that were left what felt like unfinished and dangling, and I hadn't the level of satisfaction about it that I've had with these ones. So even though they're very similar to pieces of work I've done before, the relationships I have with the staff and the aspect that we're completing together feels much cleaner, more satisfying, and where I feel like I've been able to do my best much better, because I'd learned some of the lessons from previous cycles. Because you look back on those cycles and think, okay, it looks similar, but what did I do differently this time that enabled it to work in this way? And even if I wasn't to do anything like this again, it sort of feels like where it didn't go right in the past, or I was left with that sense, I now have a really good sense of completion over all of those other elements as well.
That feels so good to hear. Like that just put like good feelings in my body for you.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody wants to feel that sense of completion, and it is okay to not. But that's the whole reason we strive towards the higher understanding, the higher learning. How can I adjust around, as you were saying, a lot of yours had to do with the colleagues you're with, right? You were really surrounded with people that were willing to grow with you. We're really willing to tend to this garden, this project of yours. And so this completion becomes a whole hurt, like everybody considered in this wholeness that it is. Whereas before you probably felt very individual in this group project. And so that, you know, this is exactly what I'm talking about. We are here to learn. And as we complete a cycle, it might not feel as fulfilling as we had hoped, but don't give up hope, because as Mel just described, it's there. And the more we go through these cycles, the more tools we gain, the more we dedicate our life to this journey of healing and prosperity, the more you're going to see this fulfillment happen. I've been on a very focused part of my journey for 3 years, and year 1 and year 2 did not feel like year 3. You know, yes, I was feeling more fulfilled. I was feeling more fulfilled. I was feeling more fulfilled. But this year it's like mind-blowing levels of, oh my God, I did this. I managed all of this. And what was so daunting seems so easy now. And you know, Mel and I were having a conversation before this, and I was making some links to things. And instead of being fearful of the next symptom of a trauma, I'm actually very curious about it. I'm like, oh, I wonder why this is happening this way. And maybe if I could get this, if I could work with my subconscious and start bringing these things up to my consciousness, I could face it. And then maybe this will help me. And what, you know, and whatever this is that we're identifying with. And to be in that position is inspiring. Right. To be in the position of excited to do the work is so inspiring to myself. And that truly is motivating. And I've had issues with motivation my whole life. And now I don't think I could be any more motivated if I tried to this healing of self and the symptoms that come along with that healing. And, you know, sometimes with trauma healing, I'm really learning that you can have your mind and your spirit, your heart on the same page, but maybe your body hasn't caught up. And so now you're unifying those 3 things. And so the work that you've done, you might have healed here and you might have healed here. You have this third aspect that now you get to heal, and it becomes a little more exciting and less daunting for you. Again, this is what the world provides. This is that type of completion that we are striving for. You know, I really don't have a huge amount to say on the world, because if you're in this position, it's undeniable. You feel it. The energy is there. How we feel, the way we react, the way we look forward to the next process, the way we're congratulating ourselves as we look back on that journey is really the completion portion. That's it. That is the card. The card is just here to remind you that every cycle will complete itself. And then
I think the message I'd like to get to anyone really is, because the thoughts as you were talking that were coming up for me was, we can have difficult times with our children, and many parents might think when you're in the midst of whatever the difficulties that you're facing, it can look like it's always going to look like that. But that's the other thing that I've also really benefited from in this cycle, is seeing shifts in the relationships that I have with my children, or shifts in relationships that I've had and with different friendship groups. And yet, when you're in the midst of all of those experiences, whether it is a tough work situation or a tough situation with family and friends or whatever, is that when you get to a much level place and sense of satisfaction, you can look back at all of those times as the growth spurts, and really understand that why people say growth is painful, because when everyone's growing at the same time, everybody's tapping into their own neurosis, ego, issues with their own timeline, is a lot of the time we're just responding from our past ways of being, which can be unhelpful, unhealthy. But the moment you start to take steps is when you find out some of the steps that can work, and which is why we like to do these podcasts, is we try and help people understand some of the steps that are easier to take. Be kind to yourself, be accepting, know that actually you can get through these things, that you can learn stuff that you haven't been able to do before. You can learn the computer, you can learn how to go on YouTube, you can learn, and how satisfying each of those things are, and to really celebrate each of those steps that you've taken, because that will and like you said, motivation isn't something you can pull out of thin air. Motivation comes when you are able to look back over those things and really celebrate the distance that you've traveled. Because I am definitely one of those people that when sometimes something just gets too much, I can want to just throw the towel in, because they're the patterns that I experienced in my own family, that sometimes one small thing can go wrong and you're just like, oh, I really don't. And then something just forces you to get back up and make that call and talk to that person, even when, and then you think, oh, I'm so glad I bit my tongue and I didn't come out and say these things. And I didn't say everything that was in my head. And I've probably been more transparent with the people that I've worked with than I have at any other time. And the rewards have been immense. But you can't predict what they're going to be when you're in that process.
No, it's true, and you can't, you just can't. And, on that same note, last week when I couldn't come forward with the world with the completion, I had this moment where I had to remind myself that it was okay to be vulnerable. That I now had the support around me that even in the recent past I hadn't, but now I do. And that reminder that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to express myself, and I don't have to be strong all the time, was just pivotal in the success of me completing and removing and healing and moving forward, if you will, for those few days that I felt like that trauma response was just overwhelming. When I released my need to only be there for, like, to only be able I'm the only one that can take care of me, and realizing that I have this beautiful support system that can help me in ways that I needed, holding my hand, walking me through, allowing these deeper insights, holding me accountable. Like, it changes everything. So as we learn these lessons, we are picking up all of these tools. And even though we might have that survival response of how we survived in the past, the beauty of every cycle is the thrive response gets stronger and stronger. And that survival response may be that moment, but then right after that moment, what's the next step? What goes beyond that? What goes beyond me speaking my mind just because I feel wronged? What's the next step behind just self-soothing because other people are now here to support me? What is that next thrive step I can take so that I can get out of the survival mode that I've been in? It's amazing what happens. Again, like Mel said, you cannot predict this. This is an overwhelming response of surprise, and you're going to love this kind of surprise. The universe really does gift us the caring nature, the nurturing nature of a mother and father archetype at its highest possible being. It's amazing what we can do. Especially when you surround yourself with good people. As you've healed and you've walked forward, you begin to surround yourself with people who are healing and walking forward with you. And their journey might look completely different than yours, but that's kind of the point. We don't want everybody on the same journey. You get really competitive really fast, I'm assuming. So it'll probably be a lot harder. But outside of that, Mel, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before I do the tarot?
No, that's great. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, guys, this is a 5-card tarot. This is the first one is going to be self-fulfillment. What makes me feel? The second card is under the fixed sign Taurus, or security. So stability and comfort. What is my stability and comfort? The third one is the Leo, or pleasure. What is bringing me pleasure to my life? The fourth card is Scorpio, or your passion. What is bringing passion to my life? What am I passionate about? And the fifth card is Aquarius, or altruism. And what makes you want to help others? As you can see, the world is a cycle of completion. You've got some needs that are being met. You're starting to extend beyond those needs into pleasures. And now you're getting to step forward into a new cycle, or at least basking in the completed cycle, right? Allowing yourself to be there and seeing what these things are, these 5 cards that was you pull them to help you get a grasp on what it was you needed throughout that whole cycle that bring you the most joy, the most security, the most passion, and the things that make you want to reach out and help the next person. So you get those cards out, you follow them. You can use Oracle, you can use Tarot. We are just doing the Major Arcana through Tarot, but it's mostly because of the psychology of it and the research that's been done for it, and the way we can reach in deeper. Oracle cards go just as deep. They can provide you just as much information, allow that to happen as well. And then, from that point forward, guys, I do want to let you know that we are bringing in our second webinar. We're going to be bringing in some new tools. As you know, if you're aware, if you've watched that first webinar, if you were a part of it in that first one, we went over a lot of information. We went over different ways that can help you be successful in this journey of healing, in this journey of prosperity, and this journey of becoming your fullest self, the wholeness that is you. And this one is really, we're going to do a little follow-up of what we did the first one, because again, it was a lot of information, but we're going to be introducing new ideas to everybody, things that are readily available, things that have resources available, things that are easy for you to do. We do keep the simple method, and everything that we do is going to be easy for us to take on. Things that you can do on a daily basis, things that are not going to feel too hard. They're things that are really here to help us. And these are the things that have helped Mel and I and thousands, if not millions of other people. So with that being said, congratulations, everybody. Welcome to the end of your cycle. I really hope that you celebrate this. I know Mel and I are. We decided to celebrate with getting the second webinar and start planning the next series. So with that being said, Mel, thank you. Always thank you. I love taking this journey with you. You are just everything good in my world. I appreciate you for that.
Oh, same back at you, Danielle.
Yes.
Same back at you.
All right.
So we look forward to our next series, which we've got in mind, haven't we?
Yeah, we'll be putting that out on our page, Mel and Danielle on Facebook, Mel and Danielle 333 on Instagram. You know where we are on YouTube. You're here already. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you can, share our information. We are building a community of healing, and we would love to have you as a part of it.
Brilliant. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.